Oh, I see. This is the negative space.
Right, that's what you might lose.
That's what I'm looking at here.
And every time you hammer on one spot, it creates a lever, and this will want to pry upward. And so we will start from this lower layer, establish that clean perimeter, and build inward toward our design.
Okay.
The original, so the reason I kept it is because the stippled edge, that's what I was doing to transfer the pattern at the time into the metal.
Using an awl?
Yeah, just a sharpened little punch to essentially just stipple the edge.
Okay.
That's a little bit more common with graving work because it'll be removed.
Right.
But since we were doing a mirror finish and I was hammering very, very lightly, you could transfer the design flat, anneal it.
Right,
you won't lose your drawing. But we could do that with liners, or we could do it with a stippler. So in this bottom field, right there, the lines you get to interpret, is that the depth of a line or is that a crisp edge? Because if it's a crisp edge, a corner that stands up a lot like the planished edges that we've got, we will not stipple a line like that. Even though I know I have it stippled here, I much prefer to avoid that. The exactness of a task like this, sometimes I'll add it in anyways, but even lighter still, maybe just give yourself 1 or 2 plot points and then ink will do the rest. And it's actually something I look for in any artist's work. So I know at what step they're thinking sculpturally on the piece because they're drawing on the metal as the metal keeps changing. Because like we've discovered, it will only change so quickly.
Right.
And so every anneal, you get a new chance to redraft your illustration. You can kind of change where it is, hone in on the spots you like and the features that you like. And so these top lines, we would not add that stippled line, but the depths is super easy to hide. We'll retrace those lines anyways.
Right.
So those are okay. This high rise, leave it alone.
Ooh, ow. Now, I'm just curious about the order of operations here. So you were talking about working from the outside in.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, I'm assuming that the first pass on this would be to dish it slightly before putting it in the pitch. Right. And then you're saying you start out here and you work from there, and then you work slowly on your way in. And then you have a certain amount you leave for the roll.
That's right.
Do you have a formula you like that you always know you need for the roll? I'm just curious.
Well, in this case, we did have something that needed to be a certain thickness. So the metal can stretch a little.
Right.
And while you keep hammering so much, it might change some. So what you end up doing is you'll start a roll halfway. And then because an interior roll is a little different than an exterior roll.
Right.
On that interior roll, I would get it about halfway.
Yeah. And
then you can come back and hand file that edge nice and crisp, nice and clean, and then finish it over so you don't get distortion. If you have a jagged edge, the roll will complete at different points, at different speeds, different resistances, fight you differently. So here is a little more shallow. And so that would have completed that curve much faster.
Oh, I see.
Because its neighbors are taller and have more resistance. And so they drag and they change shape slower.
Wow.
So before you finish a roll, it is not uncommon to just clean up and tidy the width of that. So
the overall width of it.
Right, the width of however high the half roll
has
traveled.
Before you do that last little wrap. Gotcha. Right. Okay, that makes total sense.
So if you take that and just lay it out.
Right, your goal is that you want a consistent edge that flows and doesn't copy.
What is that, about 1/4 inch?
It looks like about 1/4 inch.
So I might give myself double that.
Yep.
Just to make sure I hit it all the way over.
A half inch or a little more,
And it's not really that visible. This side is curved a little more. This is flattened out some. So this final curve right there and right here, we can change after the roll's put in.
Right.
So the whole dish will stabilize the chasing. The chasing will pull some of the curve. We'll sacrifice the curve to shape the features. And then after we've done the roll, we can change the overall profile of that bend.
Phenomenal.
Because that'll be strong enough to change without failing. And none of these will be harmed by that either.
Okay.
or if you had a lot of complicated lines to make sense of, as long as we established what was, the deep part of a line versus the apex of a shape. All the deep spots you can put a line in.
I see.
So,
and the apex you don't want to.
Right, because there's nowhere to hide it.
Right.
And we're going to sculpt that mountain up. We're not going to, the valleys you can add all the dents you want, and it's going to be fine. And so it's the outline on the base layer that is this stippled edge. So I'm just going to just kind of fast and light. Just make sure I can see it a little harder than that.
Okay, so you've transferred the pattern. That stippling technique is my favorite new pattern transfer.
And again, you can use a liner if you wanted a big, smoother path, but it's what I did on the original, so it's what we've done here. I've gone a little heavier where the lines are deeper. I did give us just a slight suggestion of what will be a peak.
Great.
It'll all come out as we keep hammering over it. But that's it. We're going to give it a slight dish, anneal it before we put it in the pitch.
I'm going to prep the torch.
Brilliant. How do you usually anneal brass?
I have not yet fully annealed brass. My literature says it goes to orange hot. Is that right?
Yeah, you can get it that hot for sure. Before you quench it, sometimes I let it to come down to a black heat because the shock of that cooling curve can be a little intense.
By all means, I've mostly got it there.
So that's probably good.
That's probably good?
Yeah. If you want to set it down and then
get a little bit of...
Yeah.
I just bought that heating torch a couple of weeks ago.
The Rosebud?
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing.
They're totally. I somehow lost mine and didn't know until I looked for it.
Have you a
come on over
water?
Here. I got a sink.
But the first mount, I think we have enough, but I'm gonna just create that spike because I want the center contact to hit first.
Yeah.
Would you give me just a little extra heat all the way around?
I sit here heating stuff up like this, and I'm always wondering what the optimal speed is. And I'm sure it's material dependent on the communication of heat and how well it propagates through the medium. But I know that there is an optimal relationship of speed. Just never figured out what it is.
Sometimes that ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
For the pitch, thermodynamics, it's only going to happen so fast. Like if you're relying on the layers to let itself soak through.
Right.
So an ambient temperature, like you said, your kiln, or at home, since I'm in the valley, I've got a solar oven and it's just a constant chamber up to a temp that will never burn it.
Amazing.
And so I can just kick it in there, have a coffee, come back. And since it's ambient heat everywhere, soaks in from all sides.
That's awesome.
That should be good.
Yeah.
Now, we likely need this dished a little more to my liking, okay?
Okay.
And we could do that, but for the sake of time, we might get it started.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
I am okay with that.
All right. And then when I see the blowout on the sides, I know it's made contact everywhere.
Amazing.
There are some schools of thought that want you to fully bury this thing. I don't really rely on that. Like we talked about just briefly earlier, it is an adhesive. And so if I inhibit the material exchange by hiding the shapes with the pitch, I'm not letting the metal change shape as it needs.
Fair.
As much. I'm also creating a much bigger, stickier mess. So, because as the metal changes, and it will, shatter what cools down.
Yeah, I totally caught that.
Don't let anything overlap, and it should be just fine. All right. So the first thing we've got is this shelf there.
This shelf.
Yeah.
No,
this lower layer.
Right.
And I would very likely start by lining out a path, or you could use an oval planisher to upset just this background layer. Now this is quite warm.
And still needs some time to cool down.
We can work right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's all good. It's just going to be something we pay attention to because it's just a little hot. Let me look through what I've got here. Do I want to trace this or do I want to just kind of get going? I actually zoomed in on my old photos of the build and looked at the tools that I had on the bench, and I've got them with me. So I was just pulling out a few that I definitely know I was using. Right. If the whole thumb sinks, obviously very, very warm still, because on the outside, not burning me at all.
Right, no.
So this bowl is still coming up to temp. It's pulling a lot of heat from the center. And so if you need to speed that up, a towel, if we wet a towel and just set it on top and keep flipping it, it'll steal the heat really quick.
I like that term, steal the heat.
Yeah, it'll take it away.
Look at that, it's a screwdriver.
That's right, dude. Chrome vanadium. This is one of the first punches I ever made.
Really?
Took my dad's screwdriver and I must have had just an old one and just cut it off and hold nothing sacred. Like, please make whatever you need out of whatever you have.
I love that.
Because otherwise you'll get nothing done. The edge of this tool does not cut. It just creates a path.
That's what I noticed. I noticed stuff like that will cut very quickly.
That's right. Oops, sorry about that. So sometimes with fresh set, there is some dressing to be had.
With fresh set, what do you mean?
With a fresh set of tools.
Oh, of just like refining them to...
Because they will reflect the maker.
Yeah, of course.
Or the speed of the process to turn around a profit. Breaking in tools for other people is not always the job other people sign up for.
Copy that.
And
you're going very light on this pass.
Well, it's because I'm going to come in a little bit later with a heavier hand.
Right.
And too much overlap, all that trauma does stack. So I want a path easy enough to follow.
So and this is, wow.
I'm just going to follow into that curve on either side. And you can hear it click in. Pushing and pulling, both good. The only real rules of thought here that I subscribe to, if you can't see what you're doing or if you're not comfortable doing it, you should do something different.
Yeah.
So a great example is moving linearly, moving in or out of a path. You're just hiding your own line of sight.
Yeah. It took me a good 30 years of working to understand exactly how to really, truly address my work. Of taking the time to reset my position so that it's convenient, Yeah.
It could take time. I'm sure it seems like every 5 or 10 years, I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, totally.
And in another 5 or 10 years, I look back going like,
what an idiot.
Well, you were doing the best you could with what you had and, good on you, but I like this new way better or whatever.
When Jamie and I were wrapping up the show, we had a drive together where we had some time to reflect and talk about what we thought we knew when we started making the show versus what we knew when we were finished.
Yeah.
And it was that. It was like, we thought we were hot shit. We'd never worked at that scale before.
Yeah, everything I do, it feels like a brand new thing almost. It's like you feel just brave enough to tread into deeper water.
I'll tell you, when I painted this adamant carbonite, and I laid in the first black wash on camera, I'm saying to the audience, I'm sure this is going wrong. even though that I know it's not.
Right. Man, the seed of doubt, it can really go deep. You can see there's a fair amount of hammer marks. You know, none of this is perfectly clean.
Yeah.
We can come back and tidy that up with a number of layers. But to build up to this line, I'm going to upset a little bit, just like we've done with this, to create that slight definition. Then I can rob from this curve and push it into that uphill if I want more.
Okay.
So let me just, do you mind if I grab a stool? Just so I'm...
Yep, whatever you need. So you're going right up to the line. And what's the shape of the...
This is just an oval.
Okay, an oval with soft.
And here's one of my favorites, and it's been broken in for so long that the center is almost a concave.
Right, wow.
But I can accomplish whatever with this just because it's so friendly at this point.
So it's sort of akin to sort of that kind of, with a softer edge.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I'll just put some sandpaper down on a flat surface and place that tool on and drag it away from the dead center.
Got it.
And just work on all those edges if they end up sneaking up or having a bit too much of a bite to them.
Yeah.
Because that is helpful with some metals and usually not as helpful as you'd hope.
What a great little hammer.
This is, it's just 1018. It's not hardened. So the sound is also lower. It's just a perfect little dead blow hammer. There's no recoil, there's no bounce. It's beautiful. So you can see I've just started to establish the path.
Yeah.
Let me finish these corners and then I'll go a little deeper. Because if I ask it to travel too quickly without having enough stability, the shape gained here, sometimes it will sacrifice the height here, actually.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't stabilize the whole path, so like it'll look like it's going kind of slow. And then as those layers stack, suddenly it all kind of comes together.
Crazy.
But you have to give the sheet metal no exit.
Okay.
Otherwise, this will totally flatten out. And this will get super deep, but they won't match anymore.
So when you want to maintain the overall shape as closely as possible, you want to do light passes to distribute that torsional load on the metal.
That's right. So smaller tools, this is kind of a mid-range tool, will make room for a much bigger tool. So once I feel confident, because I'm making room for the confidence to exist,
right.
Then I can come in with a much bigger tool, set that to where I need it. I could probably... The faster that hammer stroke, the more blending I'm doing. As I slow down like this, it means I'm just like
creating
targeting. I'm being really specific. I'm making sure I'm not going over. That path is a little bit deeper. It's becoming a lot more visible. But you can kind of see how this whole form is actually a little flatter than this.
Right.
So I reckon because I would have had the 4-inch ball stake at the time I made this, and I probably would have used that a lot because it was the new tool in the room.
Oh, okay.
So it would have gotten a lot more aggressive curve than this broad mushroom stake behind us.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Let me finish this last little path. So, I mean, on the actual build, because we were working on it as a team, like the depth of the dish, occasionally Tony would use the pull max to to dish out and sink out a lot of metal real quick.
Right.
So that like my hands could be on the more fiddly stuff and the big broad brush strokes. Like he would do all the canvas stretching in between all the other jobs he had to do. And then there was another great guy in the shop, Edgar, helped a lot in filling in a lot of blanks. With your heat gun, you can add heat anytime that it's resisting at a point to where you don't feel like it's moving the way you want. But you might wait until that first path is really well established, just so that your resistance is all equal. That's looking pretty good. Okay. So to a point to where I want a little bit more depth against that line, or if I'm going to come in with a planishing tool, the same thickness as this.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be able to upset that edge now.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
Same tool, just a little smaller.
Yeah.
So the strength of a chasing set doesn't come with 1,000 different shapes. It comes with all of the sizes of like 4 shapes.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Because you increase your access, not necessarily just your sculpting practice doesn't get better with shinier extra things.
Yeah.
You still have to do all that work. But feel how warm that is. That's still very good. That's really stable. That's exactly what we want.
Also, when it's that warm, I'm assuming it's not going to want to release itself that easily from shape changing.
The adhesive
pitch is going to change shape with it.
Right. Everything is moving exactly the way you'd hope it would.
Wow.
Let's grab a dull straight liner because we're going to retrace our steps. And anytime I do that, I don't like to use the same exact size all the time. We're going to use a little more mass. And now I'm kind of trying to go perpendicular to this form itself. So like, since it's on a hill, you know, I'm not going straight down like a butchering tool. I'm not trying to divide out that stock. I'm just moving directly dead on perpendicular to the mound itself.
Okay.
Trying to hit dead in the middle.
Just trying to create a more pronounced shelf.
Just upsetting it a little further, yeah.
I somehow didn't realize that it's optimal sometimes to work with pitch while it's warm.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that warmth was how you secured it, but that past that, it wasn't necessary. But
it's one of its huge features is it changes resist as you need it to.
Right.
And that feels like the right fit to me. It's giving me a lot more depth. This is hugely rounded.
Right. Which will solve by planing it out. Okay.
After we take that first pass, let me just get around this hill.
All right.
And then you can try on the other side just to get it to match. And I'm giving it a firm blow. I'm not being shy with it, but I'm also not following through much.
Right.
So it's like the firm blow lands and then my hand is not full grip on it.
Gotcha.
So, and you might get a little bit of chatter across the edge there as that tool overlaps. And we'll just come back and the slow repetitive pass is going to clean a lot of it. Doesn't have to be perfect. We've got more passes to come.
Amazing.
And so it's upsetting that, it's dragging it down. I'm not going to go more than that. My next job is going to be working this wall just a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I might wait until we get a little bit of the interior developed, but That's what I'm working with right now. Here, give that a shot.
Okay.
I was using that 12-ounce guy.
All right. And then I'm starting about here.
That's right. It looks like a lift off just about there.
And I'm coming in that side.
Yeah. And so that like Mason's grip, like you were saying, like that carpal tunnel is bothering you, that Mason's grip is one of the solves.
Oh.
Is like you could just turn your whole hand into a meat hook and just hang on for dear life.
All right. And you're giving it, your orientation, is this level with the floor?
Pretty level.
I think I'm giving it a little less than you are.
Well, you can always overlap your blows.
Yeah.
Or if you like the way you're swinging and you just grab a heavier hammer size, we've got a few sizes up.
You can see the metal move. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. There we go.
That's all right. We got a lot of blending to go. So like early dents like this, not a big deal. Let's give it this last little bit because I can see where it gets much deeper right here.
Yeah, totally.
Bridge that gap, and I think that's that.
Okay. This feels great.
We might, it's pretty fair in the middle still.
In terms of heat?
Yeah, lower than that, we might add just a little heat. Because you can nurture it, just keep that heat at that middle ground.
Oh, now I'm getting some. Oh, so forgiving.
Yeah, you can re-overlap as many times as you need. It's really good. Sometimes I'll use this guy for that kind of blending. Like the mushroom steak, you've got those two curves, but that interior, this one's so worn out that it's flattened some, which has turned itself into a perfect forgiving tool for other reasons. So I've never changed it.
I love the way those tools grow to you.
Yeah, you end up fitting each other quite well.
It's like tool use as an evolutionary process. It's being discussed biologically in terms of this is part of our body. It's just a more refined part.
Yeah.
Right? Like thinking about ways of intersecting with the world physically. So I see that each time I'm making this pass, I'm sort of making the flat here a little bit flatter.
But by nature, the rest stands truer.
Right.
More. Here, let's add just a little heat.
Okay.
Because at the point to where we're getting a little
little chippies showing up.
dislodged.
And this sort of takes tension off of it, doesn't it? I would imagine adding some heat and letting these things grow back together.
Yeah, the adhesion increases as well.
Right.
The shattering point is maintained. Doesn't have to be crazy, just enough to make sure it's in a forgiving range. So what we can think about is, let's establish a loose pass without going quite as deep as this, because the intent is to bring up that tighter edge.
Right.
So as we work across that edge, if we go so far to where we're moving past the tool,
right,
we're going to get double printing.
Right.
So let's just start it, see what it looks like with the angle and everything. And then we can go from there and move to the interior field. I'm going to go with a medium hardness, and I'm going to just watch that, that reflection grow.
Oh, yep.
We're just going to see what it gives us.
Wow.
So you just don't want this to go too deep. Because we will be pushing against that.
Right.
So if we have a little bit of extra, by not going to the complete thickness of the tool, we have a little play.
Gotcha.
To change our minds, to move the line, to correct paths.
Yeah, I love that prioritization of how much freedom each step leaves you for the next step.
Yeah, and you can get a lot, the accumulative clarity, it's the longer timeline
Can I try?
where you see a lot. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Get out of your way.
That is really fun.
It's cleaning up, like you get a cleaner result way sooner.
Yeah, so clearly. So I'm going to stop there?
Yeah,
It seems
perfect.
pretty even around.
Perfect.
All right, and so with the interior, do we start with the same thing that we draw?
Yes, we
Draw a
would
shape around
trace
this?
we would trace that line in, establish the path. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And I would just do the full contour.
Right. The full outer outline here.
That's right, because we have to remind ourselves that this one is actually a
top line.
A top line.
Yeah.
So let's differentiate it, because this contour is all we'll need for that.
Right,
This will be
right.
that last step for this one.
Is this hammer?
Yeah, if you like,
All right.
if it feels good, it's
yeah,
the right
no,
one.
I like the way this one feels. It's
Yeah.
got a nice bounce to it.
This has the same handle size, but it's just a little thinner if you want a little less mass.
I messed up there a little bit.
No one will see it. It's not going to be rougher than my old one. It's like...
All right. I've
Nice.
drawn around. And then wait, I just want to make sure I've got this correct in my head. I think your next one is that.
Correct.
Excellent.
Correct. It's a little smaller, so it's a little easier to establish the path, and you're just going to hold the tool at a slight angle depending on where it is.
I have not taken a fall. Right up to the edge, and you're just doing it like that.
A quick imprint, and you establish the path. Beautiful.
Resting my arms for a second.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
Really, really, really amazing.
Now, I often sit in a drummer stool
Oh,
at a
fair.
standing bench like this. So sometimes dropping my head to a line of sight almost.
Yeah.
And then you can rest your elbows on the bench surface itself. I remember needing to flood out some of the metal here once we're done on this side to actually do a little bit of touch up from the interior.
After we've done the main
After
shaping.
all the main
okay,
shapes,
copy that.
Anywhere where we needed just a little bit more volume
Yeah.
with something that friendly, that big and round, we can just broaden that out wherever we need it, add a little bit of volume, and then we'll put it back in and just crisp up all those edges.
Amazing. I had thought this was like a process of punching in and out. And what I see you're doing here is you're defining and then you're stretching, but you're creating height by pushing this down too. It's like both are happening. So if I'm gonna, the next step with this is the angled punch coming in and cleaning that up and getting something that feels similar to this in terms of the angle of attack, but then there'll be a relationship that'll happen between here and here where this will flatten out and become more of a plane.
That's right.
Based solely on getting this one right and this one right.
Yeah. So having your base shape
right
as close as you can is huge. That can as long as we're talking philosophically, right? The very first step you take on any path can have a huge effect on whatever comes next. So that's where I've had problems in the past, and just my own work of like forgetting that very first step sometimes.
Right. So once I get this surround to look a little more like this, then the next phase would be to go in and trace these guys. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Because those are your last lines that you can trace in. And then you have to have enough positive space in order to crisp this up. And what hung me up a little bit is it's not necessarily super clear from the drawings of just, all the intersections of how full is this?
Right.
And does that line follow in a straight way?
Right.
Or does it like track down that step and go? So look, you've got a model right here,
which is amazing. That's
rad.
Thank goodness.
Super cool. Yeah. Generous of Tony to send it so quickly and punctually. Yes. So just having an oval planisher, walk up into that corner and upset it and just let them find each other.
So then as I'm just going here, it's really about sort of bridging each of these stepped surfaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that thoughtful planning allows a lot of definition and clarity to be gained in a short order. Mm-hmm. You also have the presenting side facing you, so you know exactly what you're in for. You're never guessing.
Right.
Now you can get like 80% of the information, and that last leg of the journey, if you need more volume, you can then do exactly what you were kind of on about in the first place.
And then for this, I have rolled my edges. I've rolled armor edges, and I have done it over a corner, coming back, bringing around, and I've found it not to be a super crazy mystery.
No.
I'm actually better at it with a hammer than I am on that thing.
Same.
But my question to you about this would be, the first step with this would be, once I have these relationships in a place where I feel really good about them, is the last step coming in and doing this indentation?
The last step, I would have likely done almost exclusively shaping stakes for the roll.
Oh.
So for the chase aspect of this is essentially this field moving inward.
Okay, so then once I feel that that's all done, I pull this thing out and I use shaping stakes to do that internal bend and then the roll.
That's right.
Okay.
So essentially you could put a stake like that. You can angle it as much as you want, flare it out, and then wrap it back in.
Got it. All right, I'm going to keep on going on this.
Beautiful.
We have this one? No, wait.
That's right.
That's the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And happy to leave that one behind. I know you've got a couple of them, but they're smaller.
I would love that. Thank you.
That's a duplicate. You can definitely hang on to that.
All right. And this is these are medium hits.
Yeah. Not too spicy. just a little.
Maybe we need more heat.
If it's fighting you?
I just was watching some pieces bouncing. God, that's so fast.
It does the trick. You know, it's... Something I could definitely say is, since this distance right here is so minimal.
Yeah.
When you are doing the step you're doing, but on the layer above, start furthest away from that and build toward it.
Okay.
So that you don't collapse that out.
Amazing.
Preserve its height. Almost don't touch it at all until you work from the interior.
Wow.
Once you expand out that center field in there, you know, you can go to town a little bit. Here, let's add a little heat. It was starting to sound a little hollow.
Oh, I'm still going around the outside edge. I forgot to go around the inside edge.
Well, it'll certainly look cleaner.
Yes. Right.
And a slightly heavier blow, more distinct, heavier blows, it'll move a little bit faster. And then on a returning pass, it can blend.
Gotcha. Oh, I can feel how plastic it is.
It moves, man. I know it's hard to see it sometimes just because it only happens one blow at a time, but you can really start to think of it like clay after a while.
Yeah, I really get that. Okay, so tell me where you think we are here.
Oh, I think you're looking so good. So good. Could I do one path right there just to see what it looks like?
Yep. you're servicing the facet.
Yeah, you're pre-gaming that facet a little bit.
I get it. I was leaning down a little too far. Amazing.
So I've got a couple bigger sizes of that, if I recall. Or should rather. If I already popped, naturally, I'd pull it out. So that's just an in-between size of that. So before you go to that biggest, soft, friendly one. So you could pick up where you liked it and just...
You're kind of almost getting to that bevel.
Yeah, I'm starting to flirt with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to see what we've got. You know, catching that side up to here, since I haven't gone all the way, should be very approachable.
Yeah.
Then let's just grab into this, because you can see this bulge.
Yeah. But I'm assuming that we're going to work that bulge out by working this way, that way.
Yeah, I'm just going to push it down a little bit just to see how much room I get out of this one tool here.
Okay.
And so I'm using the longer plane
Yep.
of that oval just to kind of take some of that bulge and extend it out of the way some. Because it lets me more clearly see what's happening.
Right. I see.
But it doesn't have to happen necessarily in that order. But when you're like trying to judge volumes, what's actually hidden in this bulge is quite a bit of that volume.
Right. It would be in my inclination. Oh, right. You were. All right. It's starting to bounce back. It's starting to give me like
in a way, does the metal feel hollow underneath?
It doesn't
or
feel
is
hollow.
it cold?
And it just feels like it's too cold.
Yeah,
It's
add some
not
heat.
moving
Let's
as
do
much.
it.
My line is getting fuzzier. That line there.
That line there?
Yeah. So it strikes me, and I'm just going to make this leap here, that I want to clean that up with something with a slightly sharp square edge.
That, or because you can see pretty clearly the start and stop point up here.
Yeah.
So mine carries lightly a little bit further. So get to that point and then switch to that tool.
Okay.
So if you carry that exact angle just a little further, it'll give you a truer definition of what you're actually repairing. When done the other way around, sometimes you're inlaying the problem instead of trying to blend it out.
Deepening it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That actually.
Yeah, anytime you feel stuck, like look at its neighbors and see the supporting axe on that shape. And if you touch them, if the problem tones it down a little bit, it's not unusual to have the relationship be extended past the source of the problem.
It's no longer as terrible as it was just a minute ago.
Perfect.
But this shape is now down a little farther than this one.
Only by a hair.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah, please. Go. Oh my gosh. it's the end of our day here. We're gonna have to wrap this up. And honestly, I could spend another 4 or 5 hours right now doing this. Dude, I feel like I might have enough to carry this to this state. I may certainly also be emailing you some pictures and asking for advice.
Feel free. Yeah.
Douglas, this has been really illuminating day. I know that you teach for a living, among other things, but I had no idea such a wonderful fire hose of information would come at me today. I can't thank you enough.
Hey, it's my treat, man.
Dude, I will send pictures as I go, and I will totally, this is my favorite thing to do is at the end of the day, send my progress.
I can't wait to see it.
And ask for advice. Dude, I had never thought of metal as being quite as plastic as this. And actually, you bringing a whole bunch of stuff that you had made was a perfect way to reset my expectations entirely.
You can do anything you can dream of in this stuff. It's crazy.
Absolutely mind-blowing. Dude, until next time.
Adam, I look forward to it.
Okay, it's time for the big reveal. This was the part I was trying to replicate, and this is where I got to with it. I could not be happier. I've spent my life learning all sorts of different skills for manipulating materials, but moving metal on pitch is maybe one of the weirdest things I have learned how to do. It's kind of spectacular and far out. Requires a very interesting kind of mindset in terms of thinking how you're hammering, because you also move from inside to outside. But I'm so happy with this. I haven't even pulled this from the pitch yet. I'm so happy about it. I just want to keep looking at it. I did make a couple of mistakes. I burst through here in a couple spots, which is fine. That's repairable. And there's one thing I also, they did the outer ring of this, just forming it on the anvil with hammers. I used my wheel to do this. That's why it looks so much more regular, which funnily enough actually takes it out of authenticity for me. So I may spend some time sort of beating this edge up a bit to make it look more like this. But that's where we are. I'm feeling really good. Look, don't get me wrong. There are months of work to do to finish this massive, massive build. But we are inexorably going to get there. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Adam out. Thank you guys for watching. I wanted to tell you about some new merch we have at adamsavage.com. We have a 4-pack of Savage meatball logos, a 3-inch, a 2-inch, a 1-inch, and my new favorite, a Savage meatball magnet. You can get them at adamsavage.com.